My fiancée cheated with her ex, so I got my revenge by sleeping with the woman she hated the most. I work at a prominent financial institution in the U.S. At 32, I'm doing exceptionally well for myself, with a thriving career and plenty of potential for growth. It was 6 years ago, at a professional conference, that I met Emma. We clicked instantly during a casual chat, and a few months later, we started dating. Fast forward to Emma's 29th birthday. I proposed, and she said yes without hesitation. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, and I believed it was the same for her. Looking back now, though, that joy feels tainted, like milk left out to spoil. At the time, everything seemed perfect. We were engaged and planning a life together. But early in our relationship, Emma had a peculiar habit. She liked sharing stories of her past sexual experiences, particularly about her exes. For some reason, I became her confidant for tales I didn't want to hear. I didn't need or want vivid accounts of her history, especially about her most recent ex, Jake. She described their relationship as toxic, but the amazing sex kept her hanging on. I couldn't help but wonder if I measured up. That insecurity gnawed at me briefly, but I dismissed it, thinking she was just young and reckless back then. Eventually, I asked her to stop bringing up her past, and the mentions of Jake faded away. 2 years into our relationship, his name disappeared from our conversations altogether. I thought she had finally moved on, and I focused on our future. As we entered the post-engagement phase, Emma and I began planning our wedding. Both our families were relatively well off, and they envisioned a grand affair. I would have preferred a simpler event with close friends and family, but Emma, along with our parents, had bigger ideas. While searching for a venue, Emma decided to check out a few options with a friend. She later told me about an old church that had caught her attention. She visited it twice with the same friend before confirming it was perfect for the big day. I trusted her judgment and didn't think twice about it. For weeks, wedding preparations seemed to progress without a hitch. Everything appeared fine. But then one afternoon, Emma left her phone on the kitchen island while signing for a delivery. A notification caught my eye, a message from someone named Jake. It read, "You there, babe?" My heart sank. I stared at the message, my mind racing. It couldn't be just any Jake. The familiarity of the nickname made it clear it had to be him. A flood of questions hit me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Maybe it was just a random, overstepping text from her ex, and maybe she hadn't engaged with him. Emma walked back in seconds later, holding the package she'd picked up. I didn't have time to act on my curiosity, and for now, the mystery remained unresolved. But I couldn't ignore the unease. The message lingered in my mind, gnawing at the trust I thought we had. My opportunity came about 10 days later. Emma left her phone at home while heading out to look at flower arrangements with a friend. I knew it wasn't right, but I needed answers. Grabbing her phone, I went straight to her messages and found Jake's name. They had been talking, a lot. At first, it was casual conversations about the wedding, including details about the venue. He even suggested they visit it again sometime. It clicked then. Jake was the friend she had taken to the church. The realization left me reeling. The deeper I scrolled, the worse it got. Messages transitioned from friendly chatter to explicit sexting, complete with photos. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Their affair wasn't just in the past, it was ongoing. This wasn't a mistake. It was premeditated betrayal. As I scrolled further, the texts lined up perfectly with the timeline of her second visit to the venue. The messages left little to the imagination, and though there wasn't hard proof they had slept together, the suggestive photos exchanged between them told a damning story. Before I could process everything, I heard the door unlock. My first instinct was to put her phone down and act like nothing happened, but the rage boiling inside me said otherwise. I stayed seated, phone in hand, and waited for her to walk in. The moment she saw me holding her phone, her eyes widened in panic. She tried to brush it off with a forced smile, approaching me with a casual, "What are you doing?" But as she saw Jake's name on the screen, her smile vanished. "You went through my phone?" "Really? Are you serious?" she stammered, trying to deflect. "Yes," I replied coldly. Her attempt to make me the villain in this scenario only fueled my anger. All I could do was laugh bitterly. The sound seemed to unnerve her, and she took a step back. "Your lover sent you a message the other day, while you were signing for that package." I saw the notification and I knew something was off. So yeah, I checked your phone. And I was right. She fumbled over her words, trying to explain. It's not what it looks like. I cut her off. I know you slept with him. It was a bluff, but her immediate denial was unconvincing. She hesitated before pleading. It was just once. The confession hit like a punch to the gut. Her voice cracked as she repeated, It was just once. I made a mistake, please. It didn't mean anything. I laughed again, the sound dripping with disdain. A mistake. I said, You've been texting him. Sexting him and God knows what else. It was only a mistake because I caught you. Otherwise, you'd still be sneaking around with him. Wouldn't you? She tried to reach out, her hands trembling. But I pulled away, shaking my head. Don't touch me, I said sharply. Tears streamed down her face, and her voice grew desperate. Please, it didn't mean anything. I love you. I swear it was just once. The irony of her words didn't escape me. How could someone claim to love me while betraying me in the same breath? I stood up, heading to our bedroom as she followed. Pleading, ignoring her, I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and began shoving her belongings into it. Please don't do this, she sobbed, her voice raw. I didn't stop. The sight of her crying only fueled my resolve. I handed her the suitcase and said, Get out now. Her face crumpled and she wailed, clutching the suitcase as though it could anchor her to the life she had just shattered. Please, just give me a chance. Let me explain. I extended my hand instead. Give me the ring back. Her expression turned to one of disbelief, as if she couldn't comprehend how things had spiraled so far. But she didn't argue. Slowly, she slid the ring off her finger and placed it in my palm. Once she was gone, I locked the door, turned off the lights, and grabbed a bottle of whiskey. I drank until my thoughts blurred, the weight of the betrayal pressing heavily on my chest. The next morning, I woke up to countless missed calls. Emma had called repeatedly, as had her parents and even mine. She must have told them the wedding was off, though I doubted she'd told them why. I wasn't ready to talk to anyone, so I ignored every call. When people knocked on my door, I stayed silent until they left. By the following day, I knew I couldn't avoid explaining the situation. I created a group chat, adding both sets of parents, Emma and her siblings. Then, I wrote a detailed message outlining everything that had happened. I didn't hold back. Every betrayal, every text, and every explicit photo was described in painful clarity. When I hit send, the group chat fell silent. Minutes passed, then an hour. I could see that most of them had read the message, including Emma, but no one said a word. Finally, my dad called. Son, he said quietly, I'm sorry. You made the right choice. It'll hurt, but it was the right thing to do. His words stuck with me. I knew they were true, but they didn't lessen the pain. Messages from the group chat trickled in throughout the day. Some offered support while others urged me to reconsider. None of it mattered. I had made my decision. Emma's parents never reached out to plead on her behalf, and I could only assume they understood the gravity of what she had done. But as much as I wanted to move on, the rage inside me simmered. It wasn't enough to end things. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me. The more I thought about it, the more I knew calling off the wedding wasn't enough. Emma needed to understand the depth of her betrayal, and I had a plan to make that happen. At first, I considered going after Jake directly. The idea of confronting him, maybe even giving him a taste of humiliation, was tempting. But I had no real leverage over him, no way to make an impact that would truly satisfy me. Instead, I shifted my focus back to Emma. If I couldn't hurt her through Jake, I'd hurt her another way, by targeting the people she hated the most. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about making her feel the kind of emotional devastation she'd inflicted on me. I thought back to the names she'd mentioned over the years, women who had sparked her jealousy or anger. There was Olivia, a coworker she couldn't stand because she thinks she's better than everyone. That likely translated to Olivia being attractive and confident, qualities that threatened Emma. Then there was Hannah, a college classmate. She used to be close with until Hannah slept with one of Emma's exes. Their friendship had ended in a fiery fallout, leaving a deep grudge behind. Finally, there was Mia, a sweet-looking woman Emma despised for being too dainty and cutesy, which apparently made men fawn over her. I had other names in mind, but these three stood out. They weren't just people Emma disliked, they were people she actively hated. My first target was Olivia. Finding her was surprisingly easy. Thanks to LinkedIn and a bit of social media sleuthing, I tracked down her Instagram. My own profile, filled with pictures of me living a polished, slightly lavish lifestyle, was enough to grab her attention. I followed Olivia, and she followed me back almost immediately. Sliding into her DMs, I started a casual conversation. She seemed interested, and within a day I asked her out. She said yes on our date. Olivia looked stunning, and I made sure to capture plenty of pictures with her. She was warm, engaging, and completely unaware of my ulterior motives. By the end of the night, things got intimate. As I left her place, I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. Next up was Hannah. This one was trickier since she lived 2 states away. Still, I sent her a DM on Instagram, hoping for the best. To my surprise, she recognized me immediately. "Oh, you're Emma's fiancé, or ex-fiancé now, I guess," she messaged. I decided to play it honest. "Yeah, we split up. It's a long story." Her response came quickly. "Good. I hated her." Caught off guard, I replied, "Really?" "Yeah, but I guess you still love her." "No," I said, "I don't. In fact, I'm looking for someone who understands exactly how much I hate her." That was all it took. Hannah called me immediately, and we spent an hour on the phone swapping stories about Emma. At some point, I blurted out, "I just want to get back at her." Without hesitation, Hannah said, "You could sleep with me." I wasn't expecting her to be so direct, but I wasn't going to say no. The logistics were easy. I flew out to see her that weekend, and we spent the day bowling and sightseeing in her city. Again, I took plenty of photos, including some that left little to the imagination. Finally, there was Mia. This one took longer. I found her on Tinder, and it took a few swipes before we matched. Our conversations were slow at first, and she seemed hesitant when I asked her out. But persistence paid off. It took 3 dates to seal the deal. And while Mia was charming, I was focused on the endgame. By the time we were done, I had enough photos and memories to complete my plan. In total, it took 6 weeks to execute everything. I questioned myself more than once during that time, wondering if I was going too far or acting like a psychopath. But every time I thought of Emma's betrayal, the rage reignited and I pressed on. When I was finally ready, I texted Emma out of the blue. It took her hours to reply, but when she did, she seemed eager. I told her I wanted to meet up, careful not to reveal my intentions. She agreed immediately, offering to be ready in 15 minutes. "No," I said, "let's meet in 3 hours." I wanted her to stew in suspense. I wanted her to wonder if there was a chance we could fix things. The time finally came, and I made my way to the park where we had agreed to meet. Emma was already there when I arrived, looking hopeful and slightly anxious. As I approached, she stood to hug me, and I accepted it. No need to give away my true intentions just yet. We exchanged some forced pleasantries, the kind where both parties pretend everything is normal. I let her ramble for a bit before pulling out my phone. "Here," I said, sliding it across the table toward her. "Take a look." Emma picked up the phone, her expression shifting to confusion as she opened the first photo. It was a picture of me and Olivia, her least favorite coworker, smiling together. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. I didn't answer. I just watched as she swiped to the next photo, a more intimate shot of me and Olivia. Her frown deepened. The next few pictures were of Mia. "She was a lot of fun," I said casually, breaking the silence. Emma's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Finally, she reached the photos of Hannah. The first was innocent enough, a snapshot of us bowling. Then she got to the explicit ones. One was a video. She watched it loop 3 times before slamming the phone on the table. Her face was a mix of fury and heartbreak as she stared at me. "You're a scumbag," she hissed. "You're worse than me." I leaned back in my seat, completely unfazed. "Oh, really?" I wasn't the one who reconnected with an ex, slept with him, sexted him, and kept him on speed dial while planning a wedding. I'm not the one who lied and cheated. So if you're mad, you can only be mad at yourself, Emma. She stood abruptly, her voice rising as she pointed an accusing finger at me. "You made it seem like you were perfect, like you were better than me, but you're a piece of crap." I shrugged. "Maybe, but I didn't start this. You did. This is simply what you deserve." Her anger turned to tears, her body trembling as she broke down in front of me. This time the tears looked real. Not the manipulative kind she'd cried when I confronted her about Jake, but the tears of someone who realized the full weight of their mistakes. I stood up. Goodbye, Emma. Take care of yourself. She didn't follow me or say another word as I walked away. Watching her break like that gave me the closure I needed. For the first time since discovering her betrayal, I felt truly free. Since that day, I haven't heard from Emma. She turned 30 recently, but I didn't feel the need to reach out. I've moved on and I prefer it this way. What this experience taught me is simple. Never put blind trust in anyone, no matter how perfect they seem. Always stay vigilant. If something feels off, investigate it. And if you have a chance to get out before marriage, don't hesitate. For me, Emma's betrayal was a harsh lesson, but one I'll never forget.